Greetings, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov. The publication Politico reports that this weekend, negotiations will take place in Miami between the Russian Special Representative Kirill Dmitriev and special representatives of the American President, Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner. As is known, Witkoff and Kushner previously visited the Russian capital and held talks with President Putin, and later, following those talks, they met with the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, and the heads of European countries. Thus, a new round of American-Russian consultations is set to take place so that the U.S. representatives can inform the Russian Federation's representative about the agreements reached during the talks with the Ukrainian side and European leaders. The role of Kirill Dmitriev. However, the question arises, how interested is Moscow in learning the results of these negotiations? We understand perfectly well that Kirill Dmitriev is not the person who makes decisions. At best, he acts as a mailbox for Russian President Putin. Dmitriev is certainly not the person who can make decisions regarding the continuation of hostilities, the territorial claims of the Russian Federation, the fate of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, security guarantees for Ukraine. The very fact that Putin is again sending Dmitriev to the United States indicates, above all, that he wishes to stall for time in negotiations with the U.S. He wants to keep Donald Trump from making new abrupt moves that could lead to increased sanctions against Russia, and, of course, to emphasize economic deals. In the view of the Russian leader, these could serve as a good incentive for the American special representatives, who are primarily interested in business and only then in politics. Putin's strategy versus Trump's strategy. Of course, we can say that, for now, the situation is developing according to Putin's scenario. Since his first day in office, Donald Trump suggested that the Russian president stop the fire on the Russian-Ukrainian front and then negotiate the terms of peace. Putin categorically disagreed with this and ultimately imposed the opposite scenario on Trump: let's talk about the terms of peace, and once those terms are reached and the so-called security concerns of the Russian Federation are removed, then we can talk about a ceasefire. What we are witnessing now is the implementation of this Putinist, not Trumpist, scenario. This allows for the perfect stalling of time. Dmitriev, as I see it, was appointed as the special representative of the Russian president and head of the Direct Investment Fund specifically to facilitate this delay. He cannot make any real decisions during talks with Witkoff and Kushner. Instead, he will write a few optimistic posts on social media and give interviews to American media emphasizing his optimistic outlook on continuing the Russian-American dialogue. He might also provide American journalists with new documents and drafts of peace plans proposed by the Russian presidential administration before his departure. The timeline of delay. Then come the New Year holidays. It will then be possible to suggest that Witkoff and Kushner meet with the Ukrainian side again to discuss these proposals. They might meet with the American representatives again after another round of talks with Ukrainian experts. All of this will stretch into January or February 2026. During these negotiations, as Putin, who is set for a multi-year war, desires, hostilities will continue. So, what is the point of Witkoff and Kushner's meetings with Dmitriev? It is solely to create an illusion for Donald Trump that a real peace process is underway and that Putin is ready for peace. It is so the U.S. president can continue to claim during press conferences that Russia is interested in the peace process and that he is ready to end the war together with Putin. The reality on the ground. Meanwhile, real events in the real world will not change. The Russian troop offensive against Ukrainian defense positions will continue, as will missile attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure and drone strikes, everything Putin is actually interested in. The main question is at what point Washington will realize the futility of these efforts. When will they understand that the primary instrument for peace is more intense and serious sanction pressure on Putin, as well as providing Ukraine with weapons capable of destroying the most critical objects for the functioning of Russia's military and energy machines? How many more talks with Dmitriev will Witkoff and Kushner need to realize this simple truth? But Dmitriev is going to Miami precisely so that such a thought does not occur to the American politicians close to Trump for a long time. They themselves are likely not interested in making categorical assessments, as their reputation in the White House depends on the absence of such assessments. A family-level dialogue. Furthermore, we must understand that an institutional negotiation process cannot happen between people who do not decide anything. It's worth recalling that the Trump-Putin summit in Budapest was cancelled only after the two top diplomats, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, spoke. When it became clear that the presidents had to make concrete decisions, and that Lavrov could offer Rubio nothing but Russia's harsh, uncompromising position, Trump had to decline the meeting to avoid another foreign policy fiasco and negative media commentary. But when people who aren't particularly responsible for anything and aren't official bureaucrats meet, when the husband of the friend of Putin's daughter talks to the husband of Trump's daughter, they can discuss any projects detached from reality on a family level. They don't even have to consider the real political consequences or whether it will lead to the end of the war. The main thing is that the clients are satisfied. For Witkoff and Kushner, that is Donald Trump; for Dmitriev, it is Putin. It is for the satisfaction of these clients that they will continue these meetings in Miami, which bear little resemblance to real negotiations between politicians capable of resolving issues of war and peace. Thank you, friends. Stay tuned to this channel, subscribe, and follow my social media. Victory and peace to you.